Greetings and welcome to Let's Talk About Books, baby, where we talk with your favorite LGBT authors. I'm Anita Kelly, and my guest today is Lyn Hemphill. Hello, Lyn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, all the way across the Atlantic. So, how are things over in England?
They've just finished being very, very hot, and now they are very, very wet. So, a few weathery type changes happening over here.
Yeah. Same here. I'm eager for fall weather.
Yes, yeah. I think that a lot of people are. We had a first drought in the UK in several years, so. Having grown up in Kenya, I'm used to droughts, but I don't think many of my neighbors are.
Yeah, I guess not, right? Oh, that's unusual, huh?
Yeah, it's it's an unusual situation for England, rainy old England, to be in, I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. So speaking of rainy old England, I became familiar with a product that might help, folks, fix the frizzies that, rainy old England causes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so I just want to give a shout out to the Barb Shop. It is Barb is the first beauty brand for people who express their identity through their short hair. It is LGBTQ plus owned and operated by Sheena and Megan. And Sheena sent me some Barb pomade. And I got to tell you, it works so well and it smells so freaking good. Really. What's that?
I would definitely have appreciated some of that back in uni.
Yes, right? Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, thank you again. And folks, you can, check out their product, their email or web address is thebarbshop.com. And they have this soft clay pomade that just works well and smells well. So thanks again. So Lyn, you have a new book coming out soon, right?
I do, yes.
It's called, is it Drifting?
Yes, it's Drifting, my mermaid book. Basically, I like to joke that it's a cross between Xena Warrior Princess and the Little Mermaid.
Oh my God, you're reading my mind. That is funny. Yes, totally. When I checked it out, I was like, this has hints of Xena and the Little Mermaid. And so I'll save that question for later, but I did have a question about the Little Mermaid. But tell us about Drifting.
So the story is about a mermaid warrior, I suppose you could say, who gets herself cast out onto land during an altercation. And she meets and falls in love with a human woman who isn't entirely sure what to think about the girl with all the mermaid stories. The human woman is slightly convinced that is not sure whether Jet, the mermaid, is really a mermaid or whether she's just telling stories to cover up the fact that she's been kicked out of her home for being gay. And, either way, Tessa, the human, it feels very drawn to her and wants to help however she can.
So Tessa is a helper by nature.
She is, yes. She works for an environmental consulting agency. She just basically wants to make the world a better place. And she's a little bit awkward. She's a little bit shy, but she just wants to make things better for everyone. And, having gone through some tough times herself, she sees Jet, who she had not their first meeting, but their second meeting involves Jet throwing herself off a pier.
Wow.
Tessa's thought here is, oh no, something's gone very wrong in this lady's life. And of course, what Jet really wants to do is hope that if she throws herself off something high enough, she'll get her tail back. So the sort of trying to convince each other that Tessa trying to convince Jet that there's so much to live for, and Jet trying to convince her that, yes, I know, I'm trying to get back to my life. So
you could say that Jet, by jumping off the pier in front of Tessa, threw Tessa into a tailspin. Oh, that was bad, right?
Exceptionally bad. As they say in the Lumberjanes book, you've won your pungent master badge.
Oh, thank you. I'm kind of known for my bad dad jokes around here.
Nice.
So where did you get the idea for this storyline? That was where the Little Mermaid came in, because I know that you have little ones at home, right?
Yes.
And so, I don't know, are they...
You know, the Little Mermaid. Honestly, it's a bit of a convoluted sort of source of inspiration. I saw a short film by Colin Morgan called The Laughing King. It's a very, very, very difficult short film to watch, but it's beautiful, and it's made for a suicide charity in the UK, particularly men's suicide, dealing with the issue of young men's suicide in the UK. And then I also, around the same time, saw a photo shoot of James McAvoy, I think, and it just looked like they were taken in the same place. The film looked like it was being taken in a sort of a fairground environment, and the photo shoot looked like it had been taken in a fairground environment. And in my head, these two people meet in this seaside town, and they sort of meet in very difficult circumstances and help each other through it, or discover how to help each other through it. And of course that turned into, well, what if this one's actually a mermaid, and what if this one is actually a very repressed human being, and it came from somewhere extremely bizarre and turned into something very different to the source material, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll say. Wow, I'm impressed with how you kind of made that route, and
I'm pretty sure there's some weird jumping exercise that my brain goes through to get to story ideas.
But it works. It definitely
seems to, yeah.
Yeah. So, when is Drifting due to come out?
It's coming out in November, so you can get it from the Bold Strokes website direct from the 1st of November this year, and then it's out for general release from the 15th of November.
Great.
I think it's up for pre-order on Bold Strokes at the moment.
Pre-order.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful! All right, and so Drifting really it's an unusual story. Right. It really is. And it's fun. It's a fun story. And so I'm wondering, like, do you enjoy like writing like those kind of fantasy novels and, including magical aspects to your writing?
Yeah, so when I first sort of started out writing, I didn't think that I would ever go down that route because, of course, the most of the fantasy I grew up with, I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings when I was a teenager, as so many of us are, and I couldn't really imagine myself getting down the sort of hard fantasy route because I don't think I have the kind of patience required to invent new languages. So I never thought that I would be really into writing fantasy. I didn't think I had that kind of mind. But when it's something so rooted in the real world, but with a fantasy twist, I love doing that kind of thing. And I feel like I've sort of found my groove with this sort of fantasy twist because this is what happens in my mind all the time.
That's so cool. So is it's like a romance with a fantasy twist. Is that how you're kind of
Yeah.
poisoning it?
Yes, I think that because it's not just about the romance. There's also the issue of how Jet is going to get back to her world, and the fact that she was thrown out of her world to keep her safe. It's essentially her cousin, who's a mage or a witch, essentially cast her out during a battle to keep her safe, and she doesn't know if her family is safe. She wants to get home. She wants to find out what's going on, and she wants to battle the bad guys who she was battling at the beginning. And so there's an awful lot of finding out that the things that you believed all throughout your life are actually not true. But there's also the romance that I think is sort of gives both the characters the strength to get through these changes and the strength to face them head on. Yeah. So they're not really changing each other, but they're supporting each other in meeting these challenges and meeting this massive change to both their lives, and it helps them to find out who they truly are as well.
And isn't that what really happens to every couple, right? When they meet, and you come from different lives, and you kind of try to meld them into one.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, every couple for whom it works. I think that is the wonderful thing about relationships and about love, is about being on the same side. Yeah. And you so often hear of people sort of going, "Oh, I can't win with you. We are always arguing, and I can't win with you." And it's like a relationship that works is one where you're standing on both on the same side, and if one wins, the other wins as well, because you're on the same team and you're supporting each other, I guess. So my very naive and
no, I'm thinking of the song by Boy George, Karma Chameleon. The one line, "You're my lover, not my rival," right?
Yes.
Yeah. That comes to mind. It's so true.
Although that song always confused me as a teenager, because in Swahili, kama means like a. And I sort of was like, "What? You're like a chameleon? Okay, fine."
Yeah.
So I didn't understand the karma aspect of that song when I was growing up.
Okay, I guess it could probably work either way,
I think yes. Yeah.
So, when you wrote this book, I know like a little bit about the writing process, that you have to go through some major editing usually. So how many edits did you have to go through before you got to the final product that is now drifting?
I had actually it went through fewer edits than previous books, partly because I was lucky enough to get feedback on the plot that I had written out, and I sent off to Bold Strokes to sort of propose as a proposal. And I got a lot of really wonderful feedback from that which is so important. I just think I look back at that original proposal and go, "Oh my gosh, what was I thinking?" Of course they wouldn't relate like that. They wouldn't interact like that. And so although it wasn't a full writing of the book, the first, I suppose, draft was very quickly and easily done, because it was a detailed summary. So I feel quite lucky that I didn't dive in and write the whole thing from scratch, and I got feedback on that very first detailed summary. But I've had a few grammar issues, and my editor Barbara is constantly trying to teach me how the Oxford comma works, and I will learn one day. So I've had 2 rounds of edits most recently, but the core story hasn't changed nearly as much as some of my other books, which I think is very strange to me, because usually I'll write a whole book out and then look back at the beginning and go, right, no, that's got to be completely reworked from scratch. But
that's rough.
It's sort of, you look back at it, you go, yeah, no, starting again.
Oh, so, my goodness.
I should definitely have the patience to do that detailed summary at the beginning. I shall try and learn from this experience.
Yeah, that's fantastic. If it saves on edits in the end, it's probably well worth it, right?
Yeah, I can't remember who said it first, but writing the first draft is telling yourself the story. And if I can manage to tell myself the story in enough detail in a short version, then that's all to the good because it saves me some time and effort.
Nice. Really nice. Yeah, definitely. So, I saw the book cover, right? And it's really cool looking. Who came up with that design?
So I found the photo. I was sent a sort of a website where we can look for stock images, and I found a couple of different photos, and that one just looks so much like Tessa, the human character. The mermaid character, I suppose everyone looks at that and sort of assumes that that's the mermaid character, but in my mind, that's Tessa, the human character underwater.
I did it. I made that assumption. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter massively, but in my mind, that's Tessa. And because one of the fun things that I really enjoyed writing in this book is thinking of all the biology of the mermaids, because I'm a biology graduate.
Wow.
And so I was sort of thinking, yeah, now in the North Sea, it's really darn cold and they would not be skinny. They would not have noses and they would not have ears and they wouldn't have hair because I have very long hair and I have spent a lot of time scuba diving as a teenager, and seawater and hair does not mix really well. So they wouldn't have human hair. So, of course, the person on the front cover of this doesn't look like my image of a mermaid.
Aha, got it. And you are so right about the seawater and hair. It kind of dries it out.
Really does. It's crazy. And it just tangles up in everything. So, yeah, that was definitely the first thing to go. So mermaids in drifting have sensory hair. They have slightly thicker strands and they spread out like the fan worm or sort of a tube worm feathers, and they can detect movement in the water and detect signals and sounds very easily with these sensory organs on their heads, which looks very much like hair, but isn't.
So, Lyn, have you always had this great...
They'll look like humans at the point.
Have you always had this great imagination?
I think I have. I remember writing stories from when I was about. One of my first stories is written in a diary I kept when I was about 11 years old, because I thought my own life was boring. So I thought I'll write a story about something, a family of 7 who gets into an attack on a fast food restaurant in Nairobi. So.
Wow, that's awesome. That really is. And and you've developed it, right? I mean, just thinking about like hair sensors in a mermaid is pretty clever. Yeah.
That's definitely the biology nerd coming out, because I was sort of like, yeah, no, there's no way that a skinny person would be able to live. That organisms would be, that mammals in the North Sea would be skinny, because you've seen dolphins in the East African Ocean. Those things are smooth and streamlined. The same genus of dolphins in the North Sea is not the same shape. They are much more. They're much more thick and rounded and solid looking.
That's wild. I never would have given that any thought. That is awesome. So do you work outside the home then, like, or is writing like your full-time gig? How does that work for you?
It's not. Maybe one day, hopefully. But I teach biology, actually.
Do you? Cool.
And I teach all 3 sciences up to a certain level, but I teach biology up to A level, which is the equivalent in America is I don't know. It's high school level biology, basically.
Okay, and what's all levels you teach? Like that would be equivalent to like our grade school or elementary school?
No, I believe it would be middle school.
Okay.
So, sort of, I teach students from age 11 to age 18 and adult students as well, depending on what their life circumstances are. But I work for an online school.
Oh,
So,
cool.
all over the world, which is fantastic. It's really interesting. It's a great fun job.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like fun. So you work from home?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Nice for you. Um,
Yes, it worked out very well because, especially after during the pandemic, I was still working at home when my children were at home, and so I was able to sort of continue earning money whilst they were homeschooling as well.
yeah, that's fantastic. That's nice. That's a perk.
Yes,
Yeah, for sure.
so it was intense, but it worked out very well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't imagine. I know a lot of people who had kids, and yeah, my one nephew. I walked in one day, and he's like just laying on the couch, and he's like, "Welcome to my office." Uh,
uh,
yeah, yeah,
child
yep.
would be that.
So, this Drifting is actually your third published novel, right? So I have to ask you, and maybe part of the editing was all part of that, but how has your writing changed since your first novel till this one?
I asked my other half about that, and he was like, it's like it makes sense now. It's coherent." I was like, first of all, rude. Second
Oh
of all,
man.
me like this, you're right, but you shouldn't say it. No, he was just teasing.
Okay.
Um,
All right. We'll cut him some slack.
he's always the first one to read all my books, and
Oh.
him sort of walking into my office and shaking my book at me every time he gets to about the midpoint when something disastrous happened. Just comes in and shakes the book at me and goes, "How dare!" and then wanders off again. But I do understand. I understand the concepts of story now and narrative arcs a lot better. And I feel like every time I write a book, I learn so much more about how stories are designed and why story works. And obviously, there's so much of writing is about breaking 90% of the rules, but you've got to learn what the rules are first. And I sort of feel like, yeah, I kind of wish I'd been patient enough to learn the rules first, but I have never wanted to do anything the sensible way. So,
being a scientist, that sounds unusual.
yeah, well, I did get told in high school, we don't know why you went into science because you're better at languages. So, I was like, thanks for telling me that, guys. I'm halfway through my A levels.
Yeah, right. But it works for you.
Yeah, it works out. I think basically I found it easier to work out story structure. The whole save the cats dynamic of story structure, and how the arc of a story works, and sort of goals and motivations and conflicts, and making sure that your conflicts work and that kind of thing. And so I sort of feel like I've learned the mechanics of stories quite a bit more. And I've also learned what I like doing as well. I think that, so The Willing as well, which came out in February this year, was also based in the real world, but with a touch of magic. And you had one of the main characters can bring people back from the dead, and as long as there's someone else to trade their life. And the other main character is one of the people that she brought back from the dead. So it's sort of all magic and a little bit of weirdness with romance in.
Yeah. Well. And that's called The Willing?
Yes, that's The Willing.
Okay. And what's your first novel called?
Not Broken. So Not Broken was very much set in the real world, and very sort of, there was nothing magical happening there, apart from the romance. And that one just sort of exploring identity and gender, particularly because the main character was female, but sort of identified as a woman, but was rather gender non-conforming in the sense that she really hated the idea of being somebody who's expected to have children, whereas her ex-boyfriend was desperate to have children, and her new boyfriend is transgender. So that one was just me messing around with gender and trying to figure out my own brain. So.
That's great. That's great. There are not a lot of books out there who have, primary characters who are transgender. So that is so cool.
Yeah, I think there definitely should be, and I'm obviously not necessarily the person who should write them because I'm not trans myself. My gender is a bit grey, I suppose. I still haven't quite figured out who I would be, but whilst I was writing that book, my eldest child came out as non-binary. So I was like, wow, this is maybe I should stop writing this book for a while and just concentrate on my child for it. So that book took a while to get finished.
That's great. So what is your favorite part of this whole writing process? Like what keeps you going?
I can't think of one bit that I hate, honestly. I suppose even the editing I find almost exciting. The one bit I think that I don't enjoy is the middle of the book, because I find it very difficult to sort of explore the sort of point in the characters' relationship where they are building their relationship, but they haven't quite got to the climax of the relationship. I find it very difficult to show evidence of the love developing or the story developing, the plot developing. But as soon as I've got, before that, all of that planning and, the excitement of diving into a new book and writing out the meetings and the building action, and then after I've got past the middle, writing the denouement and the finale is always great fun to write. Mm-hmm. I don't know what bit is my favorite. Possibly whatever bit that you get to where your self-consciousness takes a back seat for once and just lets you write so fast that you wish your fingers moved faster. So.
That's so great, because that's the creative part of you just taking over and running, right?
Yeah, and I think that's just like that's a very addictive feeling, and obviously it's very difficult to grab hold of, and you just have to kind of ride the wave while it's there. With a surfing metaphor, because Tessa's a surfer. So just kind of have to take that opportunity when you get it, and it's difficult to force it. And I do make sure that I try and write solidly, even when inspiration isn't right there right now. But that is definitely the best part of the actual process. But it was quite difficult for me to work out which is my favorite part of the process, because I really do enjoy the process of writing.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. And you're not alone when you say like that middle part. I've heard a lot of people say that, you can break down a book into thirds, and,
yes.
the first third is great. The last third is great. And it's that middle third that just is like, I don't know, instead of like a hump, it's a slump.
Exactly. It's not angsty enough. Like, there's no meaty drama to get. I do try and inject as much angst as I possibly can into that middle bit, and that gets me through it.
Okay. That works.
That's the point at which, the characters maybe open up to each other and talk about their traumatic past, because they've always got a traumatic past, haven't they?
Yes. If they didn't, they would be very boring and, Who'd want to read about them, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, I'm just an angst monster.
So Lynn, you have Not Broken, and I think that came out like around
Yeah.
2021. Okay. And then The Willing, that came out this past year, just this past February. And now you have Drifting, that is coming out this November. That
Yeah.
is awesome. All right. So we are almost out of time. And do you have any parting words for our listeners?
I think, well, just I hope anyone who wants to enjoys them, and if you want to come and yell at me, find me on social media.
No one would yell at you.
Well, it's all right if they're walking into my office and shaking my book at me and going, "What? How dare you do this to this character? I have adopted them. They are my child now." That's the kind of yelling I'm all right with. But yeah, maybe if I that's the kind of yelling I'm all right with. So,
Okay. All right. So how would someone can contact you through the Bold Strokes books website, right?
I have most of my information on there. But I am also trying to get my website off the ground. My friend Aloise is very kindly helping me. And so hopefully I will have lynhemphill.com up and running, by the end of this month, I'm hoping.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. But I'm also on Instagram as Lyn's Hemphill. Because why would I have a consistent brand?
And are you on Facebook also?
I am on Facebook as Lyn Hemphill, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's a link to your email address through Bold Strokes.
Yes, there is. So, yell at me in a nice way. That would be great.
Again, no one would yell at you. Your books are awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. Hopefully. But other than that, just be kind to yourselves and be kind to each other, and find your family, blood or otherwise, wherever it is best.
Wow, nice words to leave everyone with. Can't say any more. So, Lyn Hemphill, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
And for our listeners, Drifting is coming out November 1st on the Bold Strokes website, and then November 15th it'll be out at all of the other general book selling sites. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm Anita Kelly, and thanks for joining Liz Talk About Books, baby. So until next time, may your journey be lighthearted, peace be plenty, and be safe, folks.